Welcome to Dwarves versus High Elves battle report. This is our first battle report here. We're playing 7th edition, 1,000 points. Players rolled to determine who chooses the starting location and who chooses the starting order. You know, whoever gets the higher roll gets to choose. Turned out that Jay chose to deploy his dwarves second and to move first, and that left Shane with the decision of which side of the board to deploy on. So you see Shane's in the bottom side. The dwarves, Jay's dwarves, are in the top. We're going to go through the units now from left to right. I'll let Jay introduce his dwarves.
Alright, first I chose 10 Thunders with full command, hid them behind that little rock wall, granting them hard cover. Next, I put a bolt thrower with an engineer up on the hill, and also a bolt thrower with proxied with a cannon. Put that right next to the Thunders, also had an engineer. I also got a unit of 16 warriors with great weapons and full command, and then a unit of 15 Longbeards with great weapons, full command, and a Master Rune of Grugny on the banner, which grants all friendly dwarfs within 6 inches a 5+ ward save against shooting and magic missiles. It didn't really affect the battle as I never got shot by the High Elves. In that unit of Longbeards, I also put a Runesmith as my general. He had a Master Rune of Balance, which steals a power die from the opponent's power dice pool and adds to my Dispel dice pool, which really helped out. And I also gave him a Rune of Fury on his weapon, which granted him an extra attack. Finally, I had a cannon with crew, but no engineer.
Okay, over here on the High Elf side, from left to right, we have 20 Spearmen. As you can tell, all his units are proxied now. So right now we're proxying 20 Spearmen with full command. Next is a unit of Swordsmasters, 9 Swordsmasters of Hoeth with a commander, and the commander is the army's general. He's got a few items. He's got the Cloak of Beards and Pure of Heart. Cloak of Beards does a lot of things against dwarves. We'll explain it later when we get into some close combat. But the Pure of Heart basically grants him fear immunity, and the unit is carrying a lion banner, which gives immunity to fear and terror. On the right side of that, we have a level 1 mage. He's got Channeler, so it adds an extra power dice, and he's got the Ring of Corin, which is a power-bound spell. I think it was cast at 4. It's Vows on Making. You get to choose an enemy magic item. It was a rune in this case, and you get to dispel it for the remainder of the battle. And he also has a silver wand, which allows him to choose an extra spell. Here we have some more proxied stuff. This is 5 Dragon Princes, also with a lion banner. And over here in the back, deployed as scouts, we have Shadow Warriors, 10 Shadow Warriors, proxied with skinks here. And they were set up behind Jay's cannon. You'll see it when we show the board again. Round 1. Dwarves, so Jay, take it over.
Alright, first I moved my Longbeards and Warriors between the two forests, up a little bit. I don't think I used the full 6 inches of marching movement, but I angled them together so I could prepare for a flank charge if necessary. In the shooting phase, I shot with both my Bolt Throwers and my 10 Thunderers. They did have a veteran, so I got 11 shots off. I fired all of the Spearmen. Dealt 7 wounds. They had to take a panic test from 25% casualties, but they did pass with their leadership of 8. Cannon fire towards the Swordsmasters and missed.
Yeah. All right, well, for High Elves, we start with Vows on Making. That was that Ring of Corin, the bound spell at 4. And successfully it was dispelled by the Dwarves. Dragon Princes charged the Longbeards. Other than that, I think the Swordsmasters just advanced some. Oh, and the Spearmen advance as well. In the magic phase, the spellcaster is dispelled. Why don't you talk a little bit about dwarf dispelling?
Alright. Dwarfs get 4 dispel dice since they're dwarfs, 2 for basic, 2 for being dwarfs. I had the Runesmith, which granted me an extra dispel die, and I also had the Master Rune of Balance on my Runesmith, which allowed me to steal a power die from Shane's pool and give it to my dispel dice, which granted me a total of 6 dispel dice, which really helped out.
We have Shadow Warriors shooting at a cannon back there. However, the hits are randomly allocated between the machine and the crew. He did score a lot of hits, but he rolled the allocation, and most of them went to the machine. And the machine's toughness is 7. It's too high for the warriors to wound. So he only did 1 wound to the crew. However, that's 25% casualties, so the unit had to take a panic test. But they're dwarves, leadership 9, so they pass. Now we're in close combat. The Dragon Princes wound 2 Longbeards, and the Longbeards and the Runesmith wound 2 of the Dragon Princes. Longbeards naturally win the combat. They have, extra ranks, outnumber, a lot of things going for them that the Dragon Princes don't have. The dragon princes do flee. They break from combat. They flee. It's only 2 inches, however, so easily Jay's dwarves caught up and destroyed them. Now we're moving on to round 2 with the dwarves.
Alright, so I had my Longbeards and Warriors charge his unit of Swordsmasters. The general in the unit had the Cloak of Beards, which granted his unit fear, but I was able to pass both my leadership tests with the Dwarfs. My units were in base contact with the Swordsmen and the general, so they lose a rune randomly. A die was rolled by Shane, and the Master Rune of Balance was nullified for the duration of the combat.
Yeah, that was all from the Cloak of Beards, Master Cloak of Beards shooting?
Yeah, shooting. In the shooting phase, my Thunderers and Bolt Throwers all fired again at the Spearmen, picked off a few more.
I think it was like 3.
Yeah, it wasn't 25% casualties, though. The cannon aims for the Shadow Warriors. It turned around and aimed backwards, but the cannonball flew over their heads. It was a horrible, horrible shot. In close combat, the Longbeards and the Runesmith, let's see, I had 6 models in base contact, including both my veterans from the units and the Runesmith and the Longbeards, and Shane had 5 models in contact, including his general. I dealt 4 wounds to the Swordsmasters, and the Swordsmasters only dealt 1 wound to me, to my Longbeards. In combat resolution, the Swordsmasters had to take a break test at a penalty. They failed their break test, and they fled. And fortunately, my Dwarfs pursued, the Longbeards pursued, actually, and caught them, destroying the unit of Swordsmasters.
Yeah, and his general was actually in that unit. Anything within range had to take a leadership test. I think everything passed except for the spearmen.
Correct.
So
they fled off the board towards that forest.
Towards that forest. Here's Shane rolling right now.
And also, the Master Rune of Balance was freed up since the Cloak of Beards was destroyed in that.
Yeah.
So I get my extra Dispel dice back from Shane's pool.
For the High Elf's turn, we started with the Valzen making again that ring and Powerbound at 4. Again dispelled by the dwarves. Okay, here's Shane regrouping. This in his movement phase, he rallied and reformed his spearmen over there, and he faces the Thunderers now. The mage moves into the forest and kind of like hides in there. Magic phase, he tries to do some more spell casting. He still fails. I don't think he got any spells off this game. Now in shooting, the Shadow Warriors attempt to shoot at the cannon crew again, but they fail to produce any wounds. So now we're on to round 3 with the dwarfs.
Alright, I had my Longbeards turn, move a couple inches, and turn again, facing the forest, and I had my Warriors turn and move towards the forest, a little bit into the forest. I was going to try to chase his mage. In the shooting phase, my cannon attempted to shoot at the Shadow Warriors again and missed, and the Thunderers and Bolt Throwers shot the Spearmen and dealt 5 wounds, which was 25% casualties. The Spearmen failed their leadership and fled 7 inches away into the woods. Moving on to the High Elves.
High Elves now, we start the turn with Valzen making the Powerbound spell in that ring, again dispelled by the dwarfs. Spearmen successfully reform, and I think they face the Thunderers again. In the woods, the wizard attempts to cast another spell, but he can't stand up against the dwarfs dispelling. So, last-ditch effort, Shane shoots with his Shadow Warriors, and he does succeed to wound the remaining 2 engineers, or crew, sorry. But we move on to round 4, and Shane just, that's Shane scratching his head there. He's giving up. He's got nothing left for the battle. But we'll wrap up and talk about some strategies and what happened, what failed, and that'll be it.
Alright, I definitely think that the terrain helped me out a bit with my dwarfs. I was able to sneak in between the woods and prevent Shane's units from charging my flank at all. My war machines definitely helped out. Those bolt throwers helped take out those spearmen quite a bit. The Master Rune of Balance also helped with dispelling. And here's Shane for his take.
Hey, this is Shane. I was using my High Elves. Jay's Dwarves and his ranged attacks were very unexpected, especially all the war machines he was using. And instead of charging his main forces with my Dragon Princes, I should have definitely gone after his war machines. I shouldn't have used magic at all, since I knew that his dwarves were really capable of dispelling all the spells that I was trying to use. So my mage was a complete waste of points. But instead of using melee combat, I should have used more ranged units, like my archers. But elves aren't squishy. They're powerful, not as powerful as his dwarves. But his dwarves are short and they move slow.
Alright. Thanks for watching. We'll try to do something like this again next week.
Thumbs up for dwarfs, guys. Ales all around and subscribe.